Hi, and welcome to Till Death Do Us Watch Party. Tonight, we're reviewing the Legend of Vox Machina Season 2, Episode 4, Those Who Walk Away. So, if you remember, last week we left off on the ridiculous cliffhanger that Vex died. So, kind of a weird place to be like picking back up and you're not immediately in that scene. Because instead you're treated to more twinsy flashbacks between Vex and Vax, where apparently Vex got kidnapped by lizard folk. Vax frees her, and during their escape they come across a bear that's being held captive. And at first you have this whole thought of, oh, maybe it's Trinket. No, it's Trinket's mama bear, and it's very sad. And then, fortunately, they do find Trinket and rescue Trinket in the same place. So you still get Trinket.
It worked on me. I thought it was Trinket.
But it was very sad what happened to Trinket's mama.
You know, I mean, the poachers.
But they gave her a humane ending.
Yeah.
They put her out of her misery.
Well, actually, that kind of surprised me that they did that.
I wasn't surprised.
You know, I mean, I get it. But it's like at the same time...
She was in like a bear trap and was full of arrows.
Yeah.
She was not going to make it.
Yeah, but like...
But it was still sad.
It was. It was very sad, but that kind of surprised me that was the direction that went in. Because when they killed the bear, I was like, oh shit, okay, I guess that's not Trinket. And then you hear the baby, and I was like, well, okay, that's I guess that's better. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that it got me.
Yeah. So then after we get cut away from that, then we go right back to Vax crying over his dead sister. And just about the time they're all like panicking and just crying, Zara and Cash returned from wherever they had disappeared to in the previous episode. And at first Zara's just like, let's just go steal the armor off of them and and get out. But Cash apparently has a better moral center than Zara. And is like, no, we can't just do that. So he rushes over and attempts to cast some sort of a revival ritual. Because she's, quote unquote, still warm. But because they happen to be in the tomb of the Matron of Ravens.
Dun dun dun.
The Matron of Ravens is like, nah, I'm the Mistress of Death. I get to decide who comes and goes, and she's decided to collect on Vex. And whether it's because Vax has been seeing haunting images of the Matron of Ravens, or because of his personal tethered connection to his twin sister, he's kind of witnessing everything that's transpiring between the Matron of Ravens and Vex. So he basically yells at the Goddess of Death, "Take me instead, you raven bitch." And I guess she decided that was an acceptable trade, because the next thing you know, Vex is waking up and Vax is wearing her champion's armor.
So that could have gone one or two ways in my mind. So when he was fighting and getting his ass kicked, and then he had the sister that was just like, it's I guess it was kind of like she was like, we can't control what happens. And he just kind of gave himself up. If he would have kept fighting, I imagine she would have got the twins. So I imagine if he would have died in that challenge, then he probably would have died in real life too.
Probably.
Because he kind of blinked out, and it seemed like people kind of lost track of his ass for a second while they were working on her.
Well, that's later on. You're misremembering where that particular encounter happened. That happened later on during the fight in the end part of the episode.
Right. But I mean, it's if he wouldn't have figured it out, like, you're fighting the champion that had the armor before you. The fact that he was like, I guess, just let it happen and chose death. I thought that was very interesting, because most D&D players are always mindset of, I have to kill this thing.
Yeah.
This thing's attacking me, I have to kill it. And it was very obvious he was outmatched.
Yeah. But again, that's later on.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's a very good insight. I'm glad you're bringing it up. But it's a little bit later on. So after Vex wakes up, Zara's still trying to get Cash to help her steal that vestige that Vax is now wearing, even though it's not active. So they're kind of plotting and walking ahead, and they're trying to get back to the exit. And as they're heading that way, Vax gets distracted by a mural of what appears to be the Calamity. which was a major event in the Exandrian history where the betrayer gods were all banished from the realms after a horrific conflict, and this is where all the vestiges are derived from.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get you to watch EXU Calamity multiple times.
I've already told you can queue them up, but you told me you get to control what I watch and what I don't, so it doesn't ruin
those would not ruin anything. I don't think. Those four episodes, and they're also GM'd by Brendan Lee Mulligan. That's why I'm like, you would probably very much enjoy them.
I'm in.
So, while they're walking on ahead, Zara and Cash hop up onto a balcony, and she releases some sort of semi-beholder-like creature that she had been keeping in a locket, and it begins to attack Vox Machina. And pretty much everybody is slowly getting turned to stone as this thing is kicking their ass. And this is where Vax's vision comes into play, because it's during the beholder fight that he's suddenly overtaken by some sort of vision that's being given to him by the armor. And by accepting his fate of this, accepting death and accepting his fate, it allows the armor to activate, into which he becomes like a speed death god himself.
No, it's like, she's like, this is my domain. And he's kind of like, he gives himself up to it so that he chose it. And she's like, okay, well, you get it. Because I thought it was interesting how Pervon took a knee.
Yeah.
To him, and then it passed to him. Her and I, we agonized for a while after the beholder-esque monster showed up, because we were trying to figure out what the hell it was. And she's like, it reminds me of a beholder, but it's not acting like a beholder. And I was like, it's probably because they have to kind of lean away from that, because I believe
beholders are still technically not open license, although that could be changing.
Yeah. So, but to me, it was like a tower defense beholder, because it didn't move. It was just kind of rooted in place.
Yeah. It almost felt a little aboleth to me, which again is another aberration.
Right.
So, I mean, it had a lot of aberration qualities, and Matt is known to be very creative with making new aberrations that are kind of unique to his world.
And his tentacles were like Darkseid's lasers.
Yeah.
From DC, how they were doing like that. Like that was, it was interesting.
It was a really fun and interesting fight. This is very true.
It was. Like, yeah, watching him after the armor activated and watching him like dance around the room.
Yeah.
And everything. That armor is gross.
Yeah, it was great.
Grossly
it really was great.
It's like Amber, she informed me that he basically has on the equivalent of boots of haste, because when I was watching the armor, I was like, so that's giving him haste, and it's probably giving him like true strike, because he was on point with those daggers too. I mean, I know they're higher level, and I know they're no slouch.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I mean, it was excessive. But the nice thing is, without having to be confined to the rules of strict Dungeons and Dragons, they're now able to kind of make these truly artifacts of the gods, and so they can give them kind of a ridiculous power level and not feel like it's going to break the game in the same sense.
That's true.
So, but once Vax kind of kills off it, Cash, who was the only one who was not turned to stone previous to Vax snapping out of his little vision with his activated armor, has managed to cast Greater Restoration, I presume, about 8 times. That was a lot of gold.
Yeah, not only that, but like
actually a lot of diamonds, I should say, because it's 800. It's 100 gold worth of diamond dust for every Greater Restoration if you're being very strict to the rules.
And Restoration's 5th level, right?
Greater Restoration, I think, is a 5th level spell. Yeah.
So he had like 6 or 7 5th level spell. That dude's powerful.
Yeah.
Don't
like I said, it might not have been that, and maybe they used a slightly different one, or maybe he got Pike out and Pike helped with the rest. It's possible. I would presume that even though it showed him getting Zara first, probably should get the other cleric pretty quick, and then maybe the druid, all people who could cast Greater Restoration. But that's the D&D nerd in me coming out.
It's the tactician.
But once they finish that fight, they do kind of bamf on out of the underwater tomb in grand fashion of just being geysered out. Percy attempts to go talk to Vax to apologize for getting his sister killed, and Vax responds with a congenial punch to the face.
Well deserved.
I mean, yeah. And even Percy was like, yeah, I probably deserve that. He didn't get all up in arms because, hey, how dare you punch me? He's like, nah, I probably deserve that. I did get her killed. And then the fun little end note is that Zara gave Vex the locket, which is very important, and there was a key difference to what was in the locket previous. Because that is an item from the game, and it effectively gives Laura a Pokeball.
Trinket, I choose you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will say, they made the joke about Grog wanting to turn in the locket. They did put Grog more than once in the locket.
Really?
They did.
Okay.
They did put Grog in the locket at least once, but I think it was more than once. You can put a person in there. It can only fit one creature.
That'd be horrifying. It's like you walk up and scan one, it's like, okay, bloop. And then next thing you know, there's a bearded, Titan? Half Titan? Or Goliath. Staring you down.
Yeah.
And the first thing you think is, where the fuck did that guy come from? And the second thing you think is, does he have a beard?
Yeah. Well, the fun thing is in the campaign, there was a wolf that was like a bonded mate to Purvon. And they released him in the greater Whitestone area. And he's basically just been like patrolling their forest to help keep them safe. And he gets to eat and have fun and live out the rest of his good boy years. Being king of all the wolvy creatures around Whitestone.
I must have missed that.
Well, that wasn't in the show. That was in the game.
Got it.
In the show, they took the locket and gave it to Zara instead of it being one of the items that was in the tomb with Purvon.
Got it.
So a slight difference.
That was kind of her mea culpa for like.
Yeah, and I had suspected as soon as the creature came out of the locket, I was like, okay, there's the Pokeball, because they didn't get the Pokeball when they were with Purvon. So I was like, okay, where's Laura's Pokeball?
Yeah, I heard you say something, but I didn't ask.
Yeah.
Because you were like, oh, there it is, and I was like, all right, got it.
Yeah.
So.
But so Lance, as the person who is unfamiliar with this, was there anything that stood out to you?
Everything. The animation has been kicked into like ridiculously. I love it. This season so far, is far and away better than the first season to me. The animation is great. The characters, I like them a lot more. There's still characters that annoy me, but like we'll talk about other ones as we go along. The thing that most stood out to me was the initiation, the fight for the attunement of the armor, because like I think that's what that was, right? He was attuning.
Yeah, it was an attunement to an artifact though, so I think that's why it was kicked up an extra level.
And I thought that fight was well animated too. I like how when Purvon was like coming in on him the first time, and then it was like he was to the right, then he was to the left, and then he was up in his face.
Yeah,
like that had very Dragon Ball Z-esque kind of overtones to it to me. Because I was having a little bit of flashbacks on that. But yeah, everything about this episode was fantastic. I think you told me today that Travis was kind of the CEO of like the Critical Role.
Once they incorporated and turned it into a full-on business, yes, Travis is CEO.
Well, if he's making the business decisions, one of the things that had to come off of him was we're putting a lot of money into the animation and we're putting a lot of money into like making the storyline better. Because I have just been thoroughly enjoying. Like there's ever so rarely a shows that we watch together where like when it's over I'm like I've got to see the next episode. This is one of them.
Yeah.
I'm super happy that they're dumping him 3 episodes at the time, because if they weren't, I'd be a nervous fucking wreck waiting for the next episode. But yeah, I can't pick out any one moment because like
that's fine.
All of it was great. Now I will say that I didn't say it in the last 3 episodes, but after the camera went off, after we recorded the 3rd episode, I pointed out 2 things. One, I'll still leave back, because I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not about the green eyes. Mm-hmm. But the other one is that when Vax, sorry, their names are very similar. When Vax was seeing the Raven...
The matron of ravens.
Yeah, like... I didn't ask her about it because I knew she'd be like, mind your business. Because she's trying to keep me pure for like the surprises, the reveals. But I did notice it. And then I hopefully you'll give me credit at the beginning of it when I did mention that off the camera, and I said I feel like she's a Hound of Ill Omen.
Yeah, and I was,
know.
and I didn't say anything, but you were kind of getting into that right track.
Yeah.
He was literally seeing the god of death, the goddess of death, which again, the character in the campaign does become a rogue / paladin, and later on he takes, I think, a couple, maybe 1 or 2 levels of druid as well. Story reasons for that more so than anything, but for the most part, it was rogue paladin were his 2 main levels.
Well, when he attuned and the armor flashed gold, I think that's when you said there's his first level of paladin.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like I think Liam may have already dabbled a little bit, but story wise, they didn't give him his god and his path until around this time in the storyline.
Can you do that in D&D? Can you do backstab and then smite?
Yes.
Holy shit.
You can, if you crit as a rogue, you smited, and because you were also a paladin,
like
you get a
10d6
double all those dice.
Yeah, 10d6 and like
you get a double,
8d8.
and he was a dagger rogue, so he would get his D4, and then his D6s for sneak attack, and then his D6s or D8s depending upon what kind of creature it was for his smite. And he was dishing out on a crit easily 70 plus points on a hit.
And you dug at me earlier because like I love playing orcs and when we play fantasy role playing games, I love them. And you mentioned we've been like branching out on classes, but I was talking about what I haven't played, and I was like, I haven't played this and I haven't played that, and she said, what'd you say?
That you've mainly only played paladins in 5e?
Yes. So when you get advantage and you're rolling 2d20 and then you crit, and then you're able to just say, I want a lot of extra dice. So it's like you crit, you get however many, and then all of a sudden you're just like, I'm going to burn like a 4th or 5th level spell slot. And then you get all those extra dice. Oh my God, those dudes, like they're heavily armored glass cannons.
Yeah.
And so they were fun. And the spells are fun. But yeah, I don't know what the future is for the show, but I'll tell you this. If this is just the 2nd season and there's like a lot more of it, and I think you told me that they signed up another show now.
Well, so they have a season 3 confirmed, which will finish most likely the Chroma Conclave arc, because the Chroma Conclave arc will not be finished after episode 12. They're only going to be roughly halfway through it. Then in season 3, presumably would be the other half of it. And then there was of the main campaigns arcs that they showed, they had pretty much 3 main arcs. Chroma Conclave was a second. There is a third one that I don't want to discuss, but that could easily be 2 seasons as well. So Vox Machina could easily have 5 seasons. And then they did just announce the Mighty Nine, which was their second campaign. Very, very beloved by most of the fandom. And that one easily that had 140 something episodes. I think they could easily milk it for, because that's a lot more streamlined, and so they could probably easily get 4, 5, 6 seasons out of the Mighty Nine.
Is that the show? Is that the campaign where the girl's playing the lollipop?
Yes.
Okay, so just a little behind the scenes here.
No.
Okay.
No.
That's fine. That's fine.
This is not about that.
Got it.
I hadn't finished asking you questions about this episode anyway.
Well, I want to ask you a quick question. What stood out to you about the episode?
I think my favorite part was just getting the backstory on Trinket. Finding out where Trinket came. I mean, you get little tidbits that you obviously, Vex has a very strong relationship with Trinket, but I am more, Vax is not one of my favorite characters, personally. A little too broody for my personal taste. He's a great character. He does perform very well, and I understand why he is so beloved. But he's kind of low on my personal liking. So for me, I was more interested in Cash. I was more interested in Zara, and I was more interested in the Trinket backstory. Like, Cash was the standout voice, character for me in this particular episode. And I was going to ask you, who was your standout character?
Probably Cash as well.
Yeah.
I did not like the arc where it's like, let's basically just take the armor from them. You're not taking the armor from them. There's 7 of them, and there's 2 of you.
Yeah.
But I did like that, the
Cash had a moral line where he was like, this is where I won't cross anymore.
There's not alignments in the game anymore. I liked the hard alignment because at least the GM could look at you when you would make certain decisions and be like, is this something that your character would really do?
Matt plays with the idea that there are still alignments. They might not have them written down, but all the characters pretty much had alignments.
Yeah.
Laura's got shifted on her a couple of times based on how she played, because we'll get into that later.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, but I did dig that. I don't like how they treat Trinket in the show because I don't think they utilize him enough, because I imagine that her Ranger class is like
She was the Beastmaster
Yeah.
Ranger class, and Ranger is a weaker class, and she was learning it, but like Matt really went out of his way to try to help buff Trinket for her. He enabled her to get armor made to help give him better protection. He helped her do things to basically, she got to learn at a certain point. I actually want to say in the campaign, at a certain point, she got to have an encounter that allowed her to basically level up Trinket to like a higher CR kind of rating.
Okay.
And it worked in game, so that way he could give Trinket the ability to attempt to withstand some of the stuff. Obviously, he was never going to be like a main combatant, but he was giving her the option to be able to use him because he knew it was important to Laura as a player. And Matt always fostered, if it's important for my player, how can I make it so it's useful for them in game as well?
Yeah,
he really kind of fed into what he knew the players wanted for their characters.
It drove me crazy because looking at the Rangers, like the current campaign that we're about to start up right now, I'm going to play a Ranger. But it was only after the Tasha's book came out where they'd made the changes that you could take that made them exciting. So like her playing a Ranger back before that existed and knowing that she's a Beastmaster and they rarely use Trinket, like that had to have been not a lot of fun for her.
That's why he gave her the ball, to help her be able to, we've got to scale a mountain. I can't do that with a bear. Here's something I can put Trinket in and he can travel with us.
Right.
I can put him away safely. Like the locket, and I don't know if they'll do this in game, the locket basically also had a command that basically if Trinket went unconscious, it immediately recalled him to the locket.
Yeah,
so it would immediately stabilize him.
It's a straight up Pokeball then.
And Matt did this because he knew how emotional Laura would get if something deadly ever happened to Trinket. He, like I said, he cared about fostering what they wanted and what they loved. And if she used Trinket in perilous ways, he wasn't going to pull back the danger, but he gave her safety for Trinket, so she could like put him back in the ball. He gets recalled to the ball.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was really kind of sweet. Do you have any guesses of where this might go in the next few episodes? Just don't pretend you haven't seen them.
So
or where the season might be going based off of this.
So we have seen the other episodes, but I will say that I'm really liking that they're doing kind of like character analysis on each of them. I like how each episode seems to like kind of being focusing in on certain characters because that gives each player a moment to shine. So I really kind of dig that. I don't want to say right now where I think the show's going to go because, I mean, it's kind of obvious. You're working towards getting these legendary items to take on dragons. Especially like Big Red MacGuffin monster. But I'm really kind of digging these deep dives into like the backgrounds. And it's not like you're not breaking down like the large paragraph that everyone writes, my character's parents were killed, blah, blah. Like it's basically little tiny things that kind of like attack them emotionally to kind of bring more out to kind of make you love the characters. And I've got to say, like the writing on the show this year, I don't know if it was that fleshed out in the actual campaign, but I think they're just doing a great job.
Yeah.
So, and if this is the quality that they're going to give us in future episodes, this company's going to be around for a long time.
I think I agree with that.
Yep.
All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to add?
Not really. I kind of wanted to talk about, and I know that most people have probably already picked it apart, but I came to a revelation today about the opening. Did we want to talk about that here, or did we want to talk about that later? Because
maybe we do it later.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought it was interesting.
Okay.
So, but
we'll talk about it later.
Cliffhanger. Keep watching the episodes to find out which ones we break down this brilliant mind bubble that everyone figured out and I just figured out. So, yeah. So.
All right. Until next time, bye.
Yeah. Don't split the party.